The Houston Rockets have lost 7 of 9 going into the All-Star break. And I'm getting a little bit concerned about a recurring theme. And it's not the one that Ime Udoka is talking about as much as it's Ime Udoka saying the same thing over and over again. We'll talk about that, the latest from spring training with the Houston Astros in West Palm Beach. I am once again getting dragged back into a story that keeps on getting me a lot of views that I don't want to talk about anymore. And all the haters of this very hated person. I've got to admit, at least in this one situation right here, the guy is trying to grow. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says podcast.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
Are you kidding me? Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. I am Paul Gallant. It is Friday, February 14th, 2025. Valentine's Day, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, on Twitch at Gallant Says, on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on X/Twitter at Gallant Says. Best way to watch this show, in my opinion, is to watch this bad boy on YouTube or Twitch. If you ever want to interrupt me mid-conversation and ask a question, any question, just super chat me like it says up right here, and I'll press this button.
Paul, stop talking. Listen.
And I will stop talking. And for a change, I'll listen. You can also get this show after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Like the video, whatever you can, because every little bit helps. Last night was a very frustrating loss for the Houston Rockets. The Golden State Warriors just have their number. Golden State took them down 105-98, giving the Rockets their 7th loss in 9 games heading into the All-Star break. So they're off until next Friday when they play the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, of course, played a very fun game against the Rockets not too long ago until down the stretch, the Rockets ran out of gas and looked tired. In last night's game against a Warriors team that does now have Jimmy Butler and a shot of juice in the arm that they maybe didn't have before, the Rockets looked like shit. Golden State was winning by as many as 24 points at one point. So entering the fourth quarter, Ime Udoka benched Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, and Dylan Brooks. 3 of their 5 starters when they're already missing Fred VanVleet, whose absence has been very, very noticeable. And on top of that, already missing Jabari Smith Jr., whose injury has given room for Amen Thompson to step in to the starting lineup. He benched them down the stretch. And to the Rockets' credit, they fought back. They got within 2 points before a Steph Curry 3 gave the Warriors a 5-point lead. The game would never be closer again. So after the game, you're expecting Ime Udoka to do what he's been doing a lot of this year. What's he been doing? Ime Udoka has been just calling the Rockets out. And you like that. But when you keep on hearing Udoka call the Rockets out over and over and over again, do you start to wonder if the message is being received? Here is Ime Udoka after the game talking about, in particular, certain people who just aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Who are these certain people? I guess you're going to have to figure out for yourself. Hang on a second. Trying to figure out the best way to broadcast this. Here you go. Ime Udoka, head coach of the Houston Rockets.
Could be
mentally and physically fried certain people, certain players. But I don't know. Everybody's in this situation right now. Going into All-Star break, everybody's playing. They played a back-to-back yesterday in Dallas, but they came out with some pace and effort and unselfishness and ball movement, and we didn't. And so, really, I don't know. It can be, I may be right or wrong about that our guys are tired, but like I said, everybody's going through it right now, so the lack of competitiveness is not really an excuse. Everybody's dealing with the same things. We're a little injured, obviously, but it's night and day, obviously, seeing the bench come in and play with that pace and the effort and physicality and ball movement, togetherness, unselfishness, all those things.
They almost got back in the game with Aaron Holiday playing, and Aaron Holiday leading the way from a scoring perspective. Just think about that. Aaron Holiday's the guy who's leading your team in points. And, of course, part of that has to do with the Rockets benching their best scorers down the stretch. But still, the fact that you needed to bench them. It's a little concerning that we keep on saying the same things over and over again. The Herd Theorem comments on YouTube at Paul Gallant. I think the Rockets' intensity they play with really cooks them on back-to-backs. They've been terrible in back-to-back games despite being so young. That is a fair point. And, of course, come playoff time, those back-to-backs aren't going to happen. But they are young. And you would think that going up against certain teams that are also playing on back-to-backs, like that game against the Minnesota Timberwolves where Anthony Edwards scored all of those points after having scored 49 the night before, he must have been gassed. Wasn't an issue for him. The Warriors played on the second night of a back-to-back last night. Steve Kerr, coach of the Warriors, who bitches and moans all the time now, was complaining about how they had to play 2 games back-to-back when the game he had played the night before was in Dallas. So we're not even talking about a long flight, but he was upset that the team got in at 3 a.m. Maybe that's a team flight issue. Everyone hates back-to-backs, but you still got to try. You still got to work hard. And maybe there's a case of senioritis, all-star breakitis going on around the Rockets, but you're playing the Warriors. You can't get it up for them, especially after they just brought in Jimmy Butler. Where's the effort? Where's the intensity? And once again, you got to have Ime Udoka call him out. This is what bums me out. He's saying the same thing over and over and over again. And sure, I think he's a good coach, but I wonder if the message is being received. It's interesting thinking about what Ime Udoka is saying and then comparing it to what DeMeco Ryans was saying all of this past season for the Texans, where when he was asked about some of the Texans' struggles, he was always very, very hesitant to throw people under the bus, to call people out, to sound anything but optimistic, to the point where you weren't even 100% sure after the season was done that the Texans were going to move on from their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick. These guys have totally different styles when they're talking to us. Behind the scenes, though, they might be the same guy. But when every single week you see the same things over and over again on a football side of things, or from a basketball side of things, after the incredible month of January that the Rockets had, they open up February doing the same things over and over again. You got to wonder, at what point are these guys going to hear what he's saying? Concerning that you're benching Dylan Brooks, an intensity guy, in the fourth quarter. With Şengün, with Green, he's hard on those guys because I believe he looks at them and he sees their potential. And I think that they have made some strides in terms of toughness and giving a shit with Udoka in charge. But I feel that this month or this 2-week stretch leading up to the All-Star break has been, for the first time, making me wonder if Udoka's ever going to be able to reach these guys. And I've brought this up before. I feel like this is an episode of The Twilight Zone. Some comments from Jay Adams, 93 on YouTube. Jalen Green sucks. He continues saying, if you're playing with that much intensity, you'll eventually get tired, and you need that superstar to carry you, and we don't have that on the roster. That could be Kevin Durant next offseason. Let's get some more from Ime Udoka after last night's disappointing loss to the Golden State Warriors, where the Rockets actually benched their starters for the fourth quarter and actually got back in the game in doing so. Udoka's talking about what can be fixed at the All-Star break here.
I don't think we really get away from it. You understand what's coming up, and it's more of a race now, to the end and now. And for us taking a look, it just gives us a chance to reflect and see what we've done well and what we've done poorly lately, and avoid those things, coming back from the break. And so it's a good chance for us to obviously reset and evaluate everything, lineups, rotations, see what we got coming back and find out what's best for us for these last 20-plus games.
I wonder if there are some lineup changes in store and where they would come from. Because you didn't go get a point guard, you are probably going to be still seeing a whole lot of Aaron Holiday. I know some people last night wanted the Rockets to play Reed Shepherd, and that obviously didn't happen. Does that happen next time around? I don't know. Truly, I don't know. But Reed Shepherd's only playing 5 minutes in a game where you're benching a lot of guys. Holiday did play well, at least when he wasn't shooting from outside. He was pretty rough from outside. I think he was 2 of 9 on the game. But what happens? Does Dylan Brooks go to the bench for Jabari Smith when he comes back? How long is it going to take Jabari Smith to get back into basketball playing shape? And then on top of that with Fred VanVleet, same thing. They're going to be, because of, some of the issues with back-to-back in situations where from time to time they're not going to be able to play all their guys. I think Steven Adams and Tari Eason are 2 guys that you're not going to be seeing on back-to-back. But I'm really curious about what the hell they do on the other side of it, because whatever Ime Udoka is saying, the message is not resonating with the players, at least over this recent stretch. Sorry, I cannot pronounce this. Oremezonamez. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. He says Reed is a headless chicken. He does have some rough moments. There's only been one game where Reed Shepherd has looked like he belongs in the NBA, and honestly, his baby face sort of works against him, right? Like, he looks like he kind of doesn't belong just because he's really, really young looking. I know he tried the mustache, and now he's got the beard going on. As someone who has, and not anymore because now I got a lot of grays, as you can see in the beard, but as someone who had a baby face and I grew out facial hair, so that 1, I would stop looking so young, and 2, I would stop looking like Rachel Maddow. True story. People believe I look like Rachel Maddow when I don't have a beard. I empathize with Reed Shepherd, and then on top of that, when he looks lost from time to time out there, yeah, I'm with you to a degree. The Herd Theorem says, I hope people will stop hating on Fred VanVleet. He's the quintessential glue guy. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Fred VanVleet that drives people crazy is that he will shoot whenever he has an opportunity to. And he said before this season that if I shoot 20 times and I miss all 20 times, I'm going to keep shooting. He thinks he's a better three-point shooter than he is. And look, that's what the NBA is today. You just see a lot of guys shoot threes because the shot is open, and based off of the math, it actually does work out. Drives me crazy. I'm never going to quite be able to embrace that there's so many guys in the league who shoot threes who actually can't. But that's just the way the league is these days. And unless Adam Silver is going to change things that aren't all-star game related, you're probably going to continue to see more of that. Here's more Ime Udoka talking about what the Rockets need to do better on the other side of the All-Star break.
I mean, first of all, you have to play with a certain amount of aggression and physicality and effort, or you don't give yourself a chance. And that's what we did, I would say, the first 35, 40, whatever games of the.
That's what's concerning. It's the effort. He's been calling it out a lot over the last 10 games. You know, we're close to an eighth of the season when you take a look at this year in chapters and stuff. And this one, I mean, it's 2-7 over 9 games. It is a little bit concerning. And I get it. Like, the expectations for the Rockets this year were not high going in. You were hoping that they would make the playoffs. You were thinking that the play-in tournament had to happen. And both of those things are going to happen. I think absolute rock bottom for the Rockets the rest of the way is they are forced to play into the play-in tournament or something like that. But, I mean, it's been a great year. It's just when you see stretches like this, you want the team to right the ship. How do they do it? Shout out to Benny Football with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 rainbows on Instagram at Sports Gallant. Or Misanmez, please tell me if I'm saying it right, or sound out the pronunciation because I feel like an asshole. The accent marks on the letters are freaking me out because I don't know what to do with them. We don't have those in our American English. Nate Williams did really well. I like him. Nate Williams, I didn't even know he was on the roster, I'll be perfectly honest. But it was nice to see somebody out there taking advantage of the minutes that they got. And you're hoping that the starters for the Rockets will take notice. And that after Ime Udoka says this for basically 2 weeks straight, that some of these guys are going to hear this message of, like, put in more effort. And maybe it is as simple as they are tired, and to what a lot of the folks are saying in the chats, hey, the style of play that the Rockets play with, it's only natural for them to seem gassed from time to time. But, and he tells me to call him Zero. I like that. It's like Ermish Son Mez. Appreciate you giving me some giving me some grace here. At some point, I want to go like 2 weeks without Ime Udoka calling these guys soft. Maybe we need to have, like those things that you see at workplaces where it's been X days since an accident's happened. We're going to need one of those for Ime Udoka, and it's going to say something along the lines of, it has been X amount of days since Ime Udoka called the Rockets soft, called out their effort, said that there's some players out there that don't give a shit. We need to have something like that. Because he's going to do it. There will be games over the course of 82 where they're just not going to have it. It's a natural part of all sports, especially in a season that probably has too many games like the NBA. But we need something like that, because maybe that will make these Rockets players a little bit more self-reflective of the fact that he seems to be doing this after every fucking game. The Herd Theorem comments, Nate Williams is a prime example of how much talent is buried at the end of benches that really just need a chance. I think it's past time for expansion, and I don't think it'll hurt the quality of play much. Well, I disagree from this perspective. Look how many guys they play, and you're not playing Fred VanVleet, and you're not playing Tari Eason on the second night of a back-to-back, and you're not playing Jabari Smith because he's also hurt too. I mean, when those guys are back or when those guys are available, how often can you play a Nate Williams or Jock Landale who both had good games last night? Honestly, not that often, And good for Nate Williams getting in there. And it sucks that it happens right before the All-Star break, because now all the players are going to be healthy on the other side of it. Because like a performance like that, you would think, okay, that gets you some more minutes the next time around. But now you got to wait a week, and maybe he loses fire, The Herd Theorem says, yeah, I'm going to have to get a whiteboard on that wall behind me. Yeah, like it's been X days since Ime Udoka's called them out. But like that's what's driving me a little bit crazy with the Rockets right now. I like Ime Udoka as a coach. I think this team is going in the right direction. I just hate that we're talking about this team being dealing with effort issues on a semi-regular basis. I do like the show of force, though, of benching your starters. I really do like that. Sometimes it works out. This is the Gallant Says podcast. In case you're just tuning in, we are live on YouTube. If you haven't liked the video already, please do. Subscribe to my channel. You can also do the same thing on Twitch. Give me a little sub. Or on Facebook, at Paul Gallant Sports, if you're more of a Facebooker. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, at Sports Gallant on Instagram, on TikTok, at Gallant Says. My TikToks have been blowing up for a subject I don't want to talk about, but I think I have to get back into today. And on top of that, you can follow me on X/Twitter, at Gallant Says, and watch the show live. It's also available after the fact in podcast form. If you guys want to chat with each other on the multi-platforms that we have, you can do it right there to my right if you're watching this in full screen. We're still trying to figure out some things. Mainly, I've just been trying to do this at the same time every single weekday, 4 p.m. Central Time. All right, guys, we're going to transition. We're going to talk a little bit about Astros spring training, but if you have any thoughts on the Houston Rockets, we will continue to talk about them as they go into the All-Star break. I'll admit it, I'm not going to be watching much of the All-Star festivities this week. It is cool to see that Amen Thompson is going to be in the Futures game, right? And that Alperen Şengün is going to get in the game. I just hate the way that the All-Star game has become this zero defense exhibition. I like defense in my basketball. I might be a little old school, but I've said this before. I like a little football in my basketball. I like it when shit gets rough. That's why I really like this Rockets team compared to the James Harden teams of years past, you know? But, well, I'm not the biggest baseball fan. I like the Houston Astros because the Astros win a lot. Does it make me a bandwagoner? Sure. But yesterday, we heard from spring training, Dana Brown, Joe Espada, others talking about Alex Bregman signing with the Boston Red Sox, 3 years, $120 million, $40 million a year. Bregman's done very well in Boston in the past. I do wish him the best in Boston. But here's what Joe Espada had to say about a couple of other things that are hot button issues for Astros fans. This is courtesy of Chris Gordy over at Sports Talk 790. Here is Joe Espada, manager of the Houston Astros, talking about the outfield for the Astros, which right now, let's be honest, it looks pretty shitty on paper.
I think our players are very aware what the expectations are, and you mentioned Chas. He knows that he didn't have a good year and has a little chip on his shoulder. You know, he wants to show up and show that he's still the player that we saw in 22 and 23. So he's going to get an opportunity to show that. But our fans should be excited about our guys. I think we're going to see a different club. Our offense is going to be different what you guys saw last year.
Joe, you can't tell us to be excited about the guys on paper right now. No one's going to be excited unless the guys who are on this team actually step in and play well. You know, it's Chas McCormick, it's Jake Myers, it's Mauricio Dubon. Doobie, do it! It's also, on top of that, like Zach DeZenzo, I guess. Like, it's just an under-inspiring outfield group at best. At worst, you could say they kind of suck. And, you know, Chas McCormick, we have good memories of Chas from the 2022 playoffs and some good moments in 2023 when Dusty Baker was actually playing him. But, I mean, like, that's the guy who's played at the highest level for the longest period of time as a hitter in the Astros outfield going into this year. For those who don't know, my cat's harassing me. This is my cat, Aria. Aria, say hello to the world. She's very chill right now, but she has been basically nudging my leg for the last, 10 minutes or so, because she foolishly got locked in this room with me, and she can't get out. But tough shit, Aria. You're stuck. Anyway, comment from Ermish Sonmez, a.k.a. Zero. This is going back to the Rockets conversation we were just having a moment ago. Do you think the Rockets should go for KD? How many years do you think he has left in him? There are some obvious ties between the Rockets and Kevin Durant that my friend Vanessa Richardson, the Rockets sideline reporter, laid out on the broadcast. We played it on yesterday's live stream. If you haven't checked it out, yesterday's Gallant Says podcast, we played the whole thing. You got to check it out in podcast form because I got copyright striked for that one. But between Ime Udoka and Royal Ivy and a bunch of Rockets players who he works out with in the offseason, there are a lot of reasons that Kevin Durant could potentially look at Houston and say, this is the only place I want to go. It's the only place I'd sign an extension. As far as how much he has left in him, I don't know. He's 37, you know. He's suffered an Achilles injury before. He is a tall, gangly player that doesn't seem to have the same kind of freakish genetics that LeBron James has. So you do wonder about it. But then again, you saw him just the other night against the Rockets with not a lot of help around him, scoring 37 points. I think that Durant will want to be here, and I think Ime Udoka would want him here. And I think the real question is Rafael Stone going to want to get that aggressive to bring in Durant? And what would it cost? I don't think it would cost as much if this is the place that he wants to go to. And that actually might be some leverage in the Rockets' favor. If they have to make a trade for him, I am assuming that Jalen Green is going to be discussed. And while I do think that Green has made some strides here under Udoka, The inconsistency is maddening, and I do look at him as best case scenario, probably being like an awesome sixth man somewhere else. I've said this for a little bit. When you're a scorer that's as inconsistent as Green is, but you are so athletic and physically dominant, like you might be at your best on one of the best teams in the league, being like the sixth man of the year every single year. I think he could be that guy. But the problem is, like, he just has so many games where he's, to be frank, fucking terrible, you know? At least from a shooting perspective. When he's on, he's on. The Herd Theorem says, Arya says, oyster clams and cockles. Yeah, that's from Game of Thrones, man. Ermison Mez, a.k.a. Zero, says, I asked because that game he played against us felt like an audition, and he dapped everybody up after the game. I thought it was an audition for the Rockets, too. And I'm glad the Rockets won, because I wanted the Rockets to impress Durant. So I think we're both on the same page here as far as Durant in the near future. More from Joe Espada, manager of the Houston Astros. He was asked about Cam Smith. Cam Smith is the main piece of the trade that the Astros made with the Chicago Cubs involving Kyle Tucker. I saw this from Espada, and I got to say, Espada's got to work on his speaking. This was a weird answer that he gave about Cam Smith.
Does he remind you of anyone?
You know what? No, it's just not good to comp, especially when you've just been like 3 or 4 days with someone. But he does. But I'm gonna save that comment in case something, get some questions about it, But no, but he's a good-looking player.
He's a good-looking player. Some say he looks like an aircraft carrier. Some say that. That was a weird answer. Like, you can give a comparison, can't you? There's got to be some player that Espada's worked with in the past that Smith reminds him of. He's a big guy. Smith at spring training was asked what sets him apart, and he told Chris Gordy of Sports Talk 790 that it's his energy more than anything. I think that's a good answer to give when you're a prospect, because you don't want to say like, hey, I'm one of the best hitters of all time. You don't want to be coming in swinging your dick around like an asshole. Here's more from Joe Espada. This is him talking about Lance McCullers, who you got to wonder if we're ever going to see him again pitching for the Astros.
He has handled that better than what I would have handled. This guy wants to be on the field. He has pitched huge games for us. While I've been here, I saw him in 17 shove it up, against us when I was on the other side.
Oh, shove it up, Joe. There's children potentially watching. But yeah, Lance McCullers throws 27 straight curveballs, and the Yankees still bitch and moan about like the Astros stealing signs. Well, what happens if you can't hit the same pitch over and fucking over again? Ridiculous. Anyway. Here's more from Joe Espada.
The field, so I respect that about Lance. I've seen how bad he wants it. So I'm just happy that he is close to getting back on the mound and contributing.
I thought he was pitching on a mound, so we'll see what happens with Lance McCullers. But for now, it does seem like Lance McCullers is on the right track. But what does that even mean? I feel like we've been hearing that for years and years and years. The Philadelphia Eagles are holding their Super Bowl parade today. Hopefully, the city hasn't burned down. Seen a lot of interesting things coming out of said parade. There's a scary story about multiple people being shot. That would make 2 Super Bowl parades in a row with shootings. Hopefully no one was killed in said shooting. There was a very cool moment, a bunch of cool moments with Saquon Barkley. I saw Saquon Barkley, saw the team ball boy in the crowd. He actually picked him up and brought him into the actual parade. I saw a picture of a guy dressed up like a bird who was like lying down on the street. The Philadelphia police did a tush push. All Philadelphia schools are closed today. It's pretty cool to see all the celebrating going on in Philadelphia. They love the Birds. They're a very passionate fan base. I did want to address something, though, that's become a recurring bit on this podcast. I keep on talking about this person that I don't want to talk about, but people like it when I talk about this person, and it's making me wonder, what do I do going forward? Do I continue to pander to this very niche audience that loves it whenever I talk about specifically Travis Kelce's ex, Kayla Nicole? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want everyone to know that. I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about funny things, but people enjoy me when I rant more than when I'm trying to be funny. With great power comes great responsibility, and maybe I need to keep ranting about things. CJ Gardner Johnson is a cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And after the Eagles won Super Bowl 59, Gardner Johnson posted this on his Instagram story. As you can see to the left, there is Kayla Nicole on a boat in a bikini showing off her badonkadonk. Gotta say, it's a very nice ass. She's a strong, powerful, independent woman. Do not accuse me like Al Pacino did of that one guy in Heat. Was it Hank Azaria? She's got a great ass and your head's buried all the way in it. Do not accuse me of that. But as a man who likes a donk, she has a nice donk. And she is a strong, powerful, independent woman, even if she's not a journalist and is more of an influencer. So Gardner Johnson posted a picture of that. And then with the caption of Gardner Johnson, a picture of Gardner Johnson and Travis Kelce jawing in the Super Bowl with the caption, should have stayed with that thick shit. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So what am I supposed to do here? Because I know that the Swifties, who have become a recent fan of mine, want me to go after CJ Gardner Johnson. I actually went online and I Googled Taylor Swift. Is she thick? I also asked the question, does Taylor Swift have more of a butt now? Because I would imagine this is a struggle for a lot of women out there, that you want to have a good butt in 2025. That's why people get Brazilian butt lifts, etc. So I looked this up. Does Taylor Swift have more of a butt now? According to a source, writes artificial intelligence on Google, Taylor Swift is working on a fitness and nutrition plan to get a bigger butt. The source said that Swift is learning how to do it naturally with squats and nutrition. It is powerful. Possible. You just need to eat a little more protein and work out. Explanation from artificial intelligence. Swift has been open about struggling with a disordered eating. Eating disorders are complex mental health conditions that require specialized treatment. Treatment often involves a combination of psychological therapy, nutritional education, and medical care. Swift has faced intense scrutiny, with tabloids criticizing her recent weight gain. However, Swift's openness about her eating disorder and body image has helped fans. Listen, as somebody who has his own body image issues, I relate. I stand with T on that. I always feel like my abs aren't quite flat enough. I feel like my arms aren't quite big enough. I got tiny little diminutive forearms from my Irish ancestors who were probably reaching through grates to steal potatoes and such as they tried to survive out on the mean streets of Dublin or Kilkenny or some other random Irish place. I've got a lot of spindly limbs, even if I have solid chest and a solid butt. But your boy works out a lot, and he's a little bit psychotic about the old body image. So I understand how Taylor Swift might be a little bit self-conscious about that. So how dare CJ Gardner Johnson go after Taylor Swift like that? And it seems that CJ Gardner Johnson is a Kayla Nicole, Travis Kelce's ex-stan. For those who might not have seen it, this is CJ Gardner Johnson on some podcast somewhere really standing up for Kayla Nicole, who he believes that Travis Kelce played with.
Bro, respectfully, no. Okay, let's get it out of the way. I got mad respect for Travis Kelce. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I got mad respect for him. Like, great, one of the best tight ends ever played the game. And no disrespect. But when it comes to them black queens, boy, you don't play with them. My boy, you don't play with them. You just don't play with them. Like, that's all your shit, man. That's all you gotta say. When it comes to black queens all across the world, you just don't play with them, bro. Like,
okay, it's not like he said much there. You don't play with them. You don't play with them. Well, what does that mean? Because it seems like he was on and off with Kayla Nicole for a while, but that was what, like 3 fucking years ago? And the thing that has led to Kayla Nicole being a constant subject of conversation on the Gallant Says podcast has been the fact that she's just constantly talking about Travis Kelce, and it's very clear at this moment in time that she's using that to stay relevant, to get interview bookings, to get on reality TV shows. Like, that's the most interesting thing about her. And hey, it's a more interesting thing that she's got going for her than I've got going for me. I will fully admit that. But it is annoying that I feel like every single week we see a headline involving Kayla Nicole talking about Travis Kelce. I feel like I see it once a week. It's fucking annoying. And Kayla Nicole does have some control over that. I know a lot of people on my comments have been calling me racist. Oh, she's a black woman. Why aren't you saying this about anybody else? I'm just saying this about one person in sports who happens to be popping up on my feed unwanted on a regular basis. I don't want to fucking see it. I didn't want to see this CJ Gardner Johnson fucking story, but that Instagram post has led to a crucible moment for me. I got to figure out whether or not I want to keep fighting with the army of Taylor Swift. Because in the past, I have joked that the Swifties, if they had stormed the Capitol on January 6th, Taylor Swift would be our dictator. These people get shit done online. And if you didn't see it, the Swifties, as soon as they saw that post from CJ Gardner Johnson, they went to work. They found CJ Gardner's mom's restaurant in Florida after CJ Gardner Johnson went after Kelce. Didn't say anything about Taylor Swift, by the way. And they review bombed his restaurant. Those of us in Houston might remember that when Steph Curry's wife started a barbecue joint here, that Steph and that Yelpers, who were mostly Rockets fans who probably hated that Steph Curry owned the Rockets back in the day, they review bombed on Yelp her establishment to the point where it ultimately closed, which sucks. Though, that said, like, hey, you open up a barbecue joint in Texas and you're from somewhere else, like, best of luck. It's probably not going to go so well. But the Yelp reviews crushed it, and they were unfair Yelp reviews. So now all of a sudden, Swifties are doing that, not to CJ Gardner Johnson's businesses. They're doing it to his mom's business. This all happened over a couple hours stretch, and some tweets were selected. Here they are, courtesy of @MLFootball on X/Twitter. Karen Vallejo, terrible customer service and below average food. A, 1 star. ZD's 1 star. Brianna Foreman, 1 star. Lake and Gore, 1 star. This all happens over a couple of hours. Allison Ariaran Vales, worst food and service of my life. The chicken was raw. They should close it down for putting people's lives at risk. A couple other 1-star reviews. These all happen over a couple of hours, and it's right after that post by CJ Gardner Johnson. much like Kayla Nicole needs to chill, some of you Swifties need to chill. And if you want me to continue to fight the fight with you, I'm going to need you to dial it back from time to time. If you want to go after somebody for saying that Travis Kelce should have stayed with somebody who has more of an ass, who, and a lot of men would agree with that. I'm not saying who's right, who isn't right. A lot of people, a lot of guys were shallow. Now, obviously, Taylor Swift's a hot billionaire. So who am I to judge on what a relationship should and shouldn't be entirely based off of looks or even worse, butts, okay? I'm not trying to do that. All I'm trying to say here is that maybe just go after CJ Gardner Johnson. But, like, was there any reason to go after CJ Gardner Johnson here? He's talking shit after a game where Travis Kelce talked shit to him. Watch the film. And CJ Gardner Johnson jaws with a lot of guys. Was this necessary? Probably not. This also is definitely not going to help things out because this is what CJ Gardner Johnson wore to today's Super Bowl parade. In case you didn't see it, he's wearing a hoodie that says, Swifties can licks my balls. Super Bowl licks. Super Bowl 59. Like, now he has declared war on the Swifties. And people are coming after him. That's for sure. I saw this article. This is in the Daily Mail. CJ Gardner Johnson's ex-girlfriend weighs in on CJ Gardner Johnson's post on his Instagram story about Travis Kelce's ex, Kayla Nicole. God damn it. I need a fucking flowchart for this. CJ Gardner Johnson's ex-girlfriend has accused him of threatening their young daughter in a response to his recent criticism of Travis Kelce. His ex-girlfriend, Summer Bunny, her name is Summer Bunny. For those who don't know, this is Summer Bunny. She too, thick. CJ Gardner Johnson, I believe, would say she has that thick shit. But let's bring it back. Summer, who has a twin son and daughter with CJ, took to Instagram to accuse him of threatening their 4-year-old girl and not being a present father while rubbishing his comments on protecting black queens, which we just played from that random podcast episode. God, this is so stupid. Why am I fucking talking about this? She wrote on her story, y'all letting that man hold that trophy. Ask him to hold his kids for real. That's not Super Bowl material. Every time I look up Patrick Mahomes is with his kids or even his own teammate Saquon. Like, does he not have actual real human beings around him to correct this behavior? Question mark. Ain't no way. No punctuation in that first sentence. Then he had the nerve to say, protect black queens? Question mark, 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 question mark. All caps. CJ, be for real. You have a black daughter you said threats to because you mad at your baby mama. Protect the black queen. Exclamation, question mark, question mark, question mark. Let me cook. Summer then added, CJ, tell people what you said about your kids before the game and how you ran your hand because you know I don't tolerate disrespect. You walking around here attacking every player in the NFL, trash talking them and hide behind your hand for real. I seen him slap you multiple times on the TV and you talked on the bus, shake my head, LMAO, and I'm still stuck on protecting black queens. Police, and you and a black queen, boy, bye. She wasn't done. What play did you have in the Super Bowl for real that led you to being a champ? I forgot in this game, even the Water Boys get a ring, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but for real, send me his biggest plays. Always trying to come for all the other players. Be for real. So there you go. That's CJ Gardner Johnson's ex weighing in on CJ Gardner Johnson weighing in on Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend, who has more of a butt, this is science, than Taylor Swift. We haven't even had to talk about Kayla Nicole in this episode, just that CJ Gardner Johnson was talking about her. That's nice, right? Right? We're not going to have to talk about her on this episode, right? Right? Oh, for fuck's sake, look at this fucking article! Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend, Kayla Nicole, breaks silence on wildly celebrating his Super Bowl loss. That's fucking rich. Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend breaking silence? What are we fucking talking about here? That's so rich. Breaking silence. Woman, you never shut the fuck up about Travis Kelce. Let's read this article. Kayla Nicole, Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend, has broken her silence, Jesus Christ, on attending the Super Bowl and witnessing what could potentially be the Kansas City Chiefs stars' last game. Nicole celebrated with the Eagles after the game. She was seen on the field talking to Victoria's head coach Nick Sirianni. Yeah, we touched on that. And got pictures throwing the green confetti into the air in scenes that many thought were pointed given Kelce was on the losing team. Now, reflecting on her time at the game on Instagram in a lengthy post, Nicole wrote, "Oh my God, Jesus Christ. I hope this is her attempt to get back into sports broadcasting and not something that has to do with Travis Kelce." Now, reflecting on her time at the game on Instagram in a lengthy post, Nicole wrote, "What makes the Super Bowl so special? Beyond it being the ultimate showcase of the two most elite and talented teams in the sport, the she spelled it weird. The ENNEERRGYYY is literally palpable." Oh, yeah, this is a kind of insight that's going to get her back into actually sports broadcasting, which she's really never done. "The collective excitement of fans and the high stakes of the matchup create an atmosphere that makes you physically feel the pulse of the game." I'd argue that college football games are going to give you much more of a religious experience than the Super Bowl. I've been to a Super Bowl. I've seen my actual favorite team win a Super Bowl. To all you fucking annoying commenters, it's like, you just say that because you're white and says black. Fuck off, 1. 2, I got to celebrate my team actually winning, not celebrating my ex's team losing, because I'm not a fucking loser who's living in the past. But that's just me. More from her in this lengthy Instagram post that's basic as shit. Quote, "There's no bad seat in the house because every person in that stadium, whether they have a dog in the fight or not, is hyped to have a seat at a table in history." Yes, there is a bad seat in the house. It's paying $5,000 to sit in the absolute top of that stadium, which is what some of those tickets were actually going for. Oh my God, this is the most basic shit I've ever read. "The lights are brighter, and you find yourself hanging on to every second, every inch." You're quoting Al Pacino from Any Given Sunday now. "It's for good reason. One of the biggest stages in sports, especially when the clock strikes halftime." Who fucking cares about the halftime show? It's all about the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar. "Paul, you're old. You don't understand Kendrick Lamar." Yeah, Kendrick Lamar, again, like, I don't want to get it. He had Easter eggs in his performance. You just don't get it. I don't want to get it. I want to understand what he's fucking saying. Continued Kayla Nicole's post. "We often minimize the humanity of the game by focusing on teams, titles, wins, and losses." Well, you're focusing on your fucking ex. That's why you're there. Celebrating with the Eagles after the game. "Obviously, football is a team sport where winning is always the goal, but I've always been more enthralled by the individual storylines, like your ex who's playing in the game, which might be his last game, and I'm rooting for him to lose because I don't want him to be a part of a three-peat." "Every player on the field." Hang on. "The names on the back of those jerseys, especially Kelce, who I was watching the whole game, the hurdles they've had to overcome, and the pride they must all feel to be talented enough to even make it to a stage like this is the one. Every player on that field is on a relentless pursuit of greatness, and I think it's pretty freaking dope we get to witness. Simply put, as a fan of the game with a soft spot for a cold beer and a clear view of the red zone, I can only hope my career allows me to continue to partake in sports history for many bowls to come." Well, can you at least admit that has nothing to do with your fucking career? Nothing at all to do with your career. You watched it as a fan. You didn't do any coverage of it. You pretended to do coverage of it with your fake fucking microphone, which we talked about on a previous episode of the Gallant Says podcast. And I'm tired of talking about you, but Jesus Christ, this headline is fucking ridiculous. The headline reads, "Travis Kelce's ex, Kayla Nicole, breaks silence," which is not fucking possible. Kayla Nicole breaks silence on wildly celebrating his Super Bowl loss. I'll give her credit. At least she didn't talk about Travis Kelce in that lengthy, basic-ass fucking statement that was probably written by ChatGPT. But for fuck's sake, Can you move on so I can move on? I don't want to talk about this anymore. But the Swifties keep telling me to talk about it. They're bullying me. I don't want them to dox me because I stopped going after you. I am a parasite like you were a parasite to Travis Kelce, but I want to stop. I want to quit cold turkey, okay? I don't need this nicotine fix anymore. Please, for the love of God, please, please stop. Okay? I'd like to focus on another battle for the Swifties and not going after CJ Gardner Johnson's mother's business like some of them are doing. I want to focus on talking about Taylor Swift's drama with Blake Lively. Taylor Swift and Blake Lively's friendship has been under scrutiny due to Lively's legal battle with Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director in It Ends With Us. The drama stems from Lively's lawsuit against Baldoni alleging sexual harassment and a smear campaign. Plus, Baldoni's $400 million countersuit. Jesus, that's how much he's countersuing for defamation and extortion. Taylor Swift was unintentionally dragged into the conflict when Baldoni's lawsuit referenced her. Allegedly, Lively used Swift's influence to pressure him into making script changes, including calling Swift one of her biggest dragons in a text. Damn. Sources report Swift feels used by Lively, leveraging her name, particularly after Lively allegedly claimed Swift cast an actress in the film, which Swift denies. Swift is also uncomfortable with being referenced in the legal drama and has chosen to distance herself from this situation, focusing on her own life, including supporting Travis Kelce at the Super Bowl. Lively was absent from Swift's Super Bowl suite in 2025, unlike the previous year, fueling speculations of a rift. However, sources confirmed their friendship remains intact, with Lively opting to lay low to avoid overshadowing Swift during the event. That's not fucking possible. No one's overshadowing Taylor Swift. Swift has stayed silent publicly, prioritizing staying out of the drama. And I'd like to stay out of the drama too. But if the Swiftie army needs me, I will fight. And God damn it, Daily Mail, why'd you have to put that headline out there? And God damn it, Kayla Nicole, why'd you have to put together a lengthy fucking basic ass post talking about the Super Bowl? We get it. You want to be a sports broadcaster again. Check that. You want to be a sports broadcaster, period. You've never been it. This is not going to help you, okay? It's not. That was the most basic fucking write-up of that game I've ever seen. Way to generalize everything. Oh, wow, it's really big and important. All these guys are fighting for their dreams. Blah, 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 blah. Fuck. Anyway, I'm done. One last thing before we hit the road. I know a lot of people do not like the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And I understand. The guy says a lot of shit that people don't agree with. But people are always looking for reasons to get mad at him. And over the last week, I've seen people get mad at him because he has had a difficult time understanding questions that are being asked of him by foreign reporters. In case you've missed it, here's one of them from an Afghan reporter who had this question to him that he had a difficult time understanding.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Afghan suffered women as a high expectation from you. Do you have any plan to change Afghanistan situation? Are you able to recognize Taliban? Because I'm an Afghan journalist, Afghan suffered women. Any comment about Afghanistan? What's your future plan for Afghan people, especially Afghanistan?
I have a little hard time understanding you. Where are you from? Oh. Actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying. But I just say this, good luck, live in peace. Go ahead, please.
Good luck, live in peace. People are mad about him saying that, and they're calling him a racist, as they tend to do. He's had a couple of issues with this week. This is him with the Indian Prime Minister, and I'll change up the camera angle so you can actually see him talking here. Here is President Trump and the Indian Prime Minister, whose name eludes me. Same thing happens when an Indian reporter asks Trump this question.
Raising anti-India voice, calling about separation, terrorism activities in India. Do you think that should continue here in the U.S. as well?
You're going to have to go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Tahabur Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying.
May I, sir? May I? May I, sir?
Go ahead, back.
He's getting crushed for that, too. You can't understand the questions that's being asked. I had a difficult time with it, too. My hearing is shit. And then imagine me, 40 years older, answering questions like this, important ones, trying to understand accents in addition to just trying to hear things. But people are going after him. He's racist. Can we give him some credit for at least doing this? In this situation, I think he actually learned a thing or two here. Because in another setting where he gets asked questions, he has somebody who is now helping him understand what questions are being asked of him. This is progress. And I know a lot of you guys don't like him, but this is a sign of a man who's learning, at least in this one specific situation.
Say about the Bangladesh issue, because we saw and it is evident that how the deep state of United States was involved to regime change during the Biden administration. Then Muhammad Yunus made Junior Soros also. So what is your point of view about the Bangladesh?
And what is the role that the deep state played in the situation in Bangladesh?
Well, there was no role for our deep state. It was. This is something that the Prime Minister has been working on for a long time and has been worked on for hundreds of years, frankly. I've been reading about it. But I will leave Bangladesh to the Prime Minister.
How about that? He got help from this guy right here to understand what that guy was asking with that question, which was hard to understand. I didn't understand it. Listen, the guy gets painted as a racist a lot, and I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I know there's that Avenue Q song. Everybody's a little bit racist sometimes. But considering what we saw like within the last week, where he is trying to hear questions that are being asked of him, but is having a difficult time hearing them, isn't it progress that there's somebody up there sitting there that's trying to help him out? And I get it. These are the translators, and maybe these translators need to be right behind him during those press conference settings where he's not sitting right next to the Prime Minister of India. But I don't know. I think that is something to perhaps slow your roll on if you're trying to pounce on the President of the United States. Just a thought. That's going to wrap up today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. We do this weekdays, 4 p.m. Central Time, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We do it also on Twitch at Gallant Says. Give me a sub if you haven't. You can also get after me on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, like that page. You can see clips of the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok after the fact. On Twitter /X and TikTok, it's at Gallant Says. On Instagram, it's at Sports Gallant. You can also watch it live that way. And it's available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review. If you roast me, I'll read it in the comment section the next day at the very end of the show. Appreciate everyone who bared with me on this Friday. I hope you have a happy, less solo Valentine's Day than I'm about to have. I'm merely Paul Gallant. So long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful weekend and Valentine's Day. Peace!